As D-Day got underway on Omaha Beach, the situation was looking grim for the Allies. Barely had the first wave of soldiers set foot on the sandy shore when they were subjected to a brutal barrage of German bullets and artillery shells. The naval bombardment they had hoped would clear the way had ended much too soon. The aerial bomb attacks had aimed too far inland, and rockets from landing craft tanks had fallen short of their targets. Months of planning were rapidly coming undone. The Omaha landing seemed doomed to failure, and the infantry was left to bear the brunt of the relentless German defenses. Pinned down on the crimson-splattered sand by the endless stream of machine gun fire and wondering if retreat was an option, the troops looked back at the sea behind them. Yet, much to their horror, what they saw was a Gleaves-class destroyer hurtling toward the beach at an alarming rate, with thick smoke billowing from its stack, apparently out of control and about to be run aground, right in front of the German guns. The soldiers winced in anticipation of the sound of screeching metal when, at the last second, the ship swung round to the left, its guns now directly facing the enemy positions. As the destroyer began unleashing a frenzy of cannon fire at point-blank range, the troops smiled at one another. The Navy was here, and maybe, just maybe, things were going to work out after all. Charging toward German guns aboard a 1,700 steel-clad destroyer during the greatest amphibious invasion in history might be one of the most daring acts of World War II naval warfare. Now, 80 years later, you can execute your own naval feats in a world of warships. Take command of iconic warships from history's greatest battles, reliving moments of heroism and tactical brilliance. And with the special D-Day anniversary event, you can experience the intense naval clashes of June 6, 1944 firsthand. Engage in epic 12 versus 12 battles inspired by the Normandy landings, and honor the bravery of those who fought there. Moreover, immerse yourself in this amphibious assault and many more battles with breathtaking visuals and unparalleled realism. Navigate the tumultuous English Channel and experience the weather effects as if you were there, whether you're sailing through a storm or engaging foes under clear skies. And command a variety of warcraft, from swift destroyers to formidable aircraft carriers and unstoppable battleships, by choosing the one that best suits your playstyle. It doesn't matter if you prefer to hunt solo or team up with friends in a division, World of Warships has got you covered. Ready to take the helm? Join the special D-Day event and dive into history with unique ships, heroic naval commanders, and customizations that bring the epic battles of Normandy to life. Use the invite code D-Day80th to get 200 doubloons, 2 days of premium time, 1 million credits, and unlock ships like the Phoenix, Kuma, Corbett, Dante Alighieri, and Wakeful after just 15 battles. You can also get 3 times special D-Day missions after 9 battles, but only for a limited time. Click the link in the description below and register to start your naval adventure today with these exclusive perks. At 8:30 a.m. on the morning of June 6, 1944, Task Force O, the naval component of the Omaha Beach landings, had received worrying news from the Beachmaster. The follow-up waves of troops were to be halted. Just 2 hours after the largest seaborne invasion in history had begun, the U.S. Army High Command had been seriously considering bailing their men out of Omaha with their tails between their legs and redirecting the incoming landing craft to different beaches. Not if the Navy had anything to do with it. Most American destroyers involved in the initial bombardment had moved offshore before the landings began, clearing space for landing craft and assuming protective positions seaward. Yet, the captains of the 9 ships of Destroyer Squadron 18, or Desron 18, had witnessed the increasingly dire situation unfolding on Omaha Beach from afar, and despite not having received orders to do so, had decided to rejoin the fray to help the soldiers languishing on the sand by drawing close to the land and firing at the elevated areas behind the beach. Before long, additional destroyers had been instructed to join the attack, with Rear Admiral Carlton Bryant bellowing with the general over the radio from the battleship USS Texan, saying, quote, "Get on them, men, get on them. They're raising hell with the men on the beach, and we can't have any more of that. We must stop it." Captain Harry "Savvy" Sanders commanded Desron 18 and a handful of destroyers from other squadrons who were now racing back toward the shore full steam ahead. Despite their captain's eagerness to participate in the assault, it would certainly be no easy task. Most of the destroyers were members of the Gleaves-class, meaning they drew more than 13 feet of water, and the gentle incline of Omaha Beach rendered close-in fire support extremely risky. Should a destroyer run aground in these shallow waters, it would make easy pickings for the German guns. To add to the danger, the destroyers would have to navigate through unmarked waters, which could hide German mines. Yet the captains were undeterred, boldly advancing toward the shore at speeds exceeding 20 knots. Initially confused by the rapidly approaching destroyers, the troops on the beach soon breathed a sigh of relief when they realized that they had come to their assistance. When they saw the ships take up positions just 800 to 1,000 yards from the shoreline and start pounding the German defenses with everything they had, they were visibly elated. Nevertheless, the lack of depth was a real problem for the destroyers as they came perilously close to the seabed, some of them just inches away from disaster. But Desron 18's captains were willing to risk everything. After all, this was an emergency. Whether their daring intervention would successfully turn things around for the Allies at Omaha Beach remained to be seen. While one group of destroyers focused on the beach itself, another, composed of USS Satterley, Thompson, and Ellison, found itself with a special responsibility to provide cover for one of the most challenging tasks in the entire invasion, the assault on Pointe du Hoc by the U.S. Army Rangers. They faced a daunting mission. The Germans were believed to have positioned several heavy guns atop a nearly vertical cliff off Pointe du Hoc, threatening both Omaha and Utah beaches. To neutralize this threat, the Rangers had to land on a narrow rocky beach at the cliff's base and then ascend the steep face using ropes and ladders. As the Rangers carefully climbed the treacherous cliff while attempting to evade the incoming heavy fire from German light artillery, they used a blinker light to communicate target coordinates to the 3 Desron 18 destroyers positioned offshore. Since the ships could not see the target directly, they had to rely on indirect fire, pausing after each salvo to adjust based on feedback from the Rangers on the ground. It proved a grueling endeavor that claimed many Rangers' lives. Of the 225 men who started the climb, only 108 reached the top. However, just before 10 a.m., the Rangers instructed the destroyers to stop firing, and by 11:30 a.m., an American flag had been raised over the position. After conquering the cliffs, repelling the defenders, and securing the high ground, the Rangers came in for a frustrating surprise. The supposed heavy guns were actually wooden decoys, and the real guns had been moved prior to the attack. All the same, with no time to dwell on their disappointment, the Rangers pressed on, moving inland to establish and hold a defensive perimeter throughout the day and into the night. If it hadn't been for the support from Satterley, Thompson, and Ellison, it seems unlikely that they would have made it that far. Meanwhile, off Omaha Beach itself, Desron 18 was facing significant challenges in pinpointing its targets due to poor visibility and effective German camouflage, which made it nearly impossible to locate enemy guns. Some of these guns were concealed within underground shelters, while others were camouflaged so effectively that, as one sailor remarked, they were invisible even from close range. Ideally, the ships would coordinate with shore-based fire control parties to identify targets and guide the naval gunfire, much like the coordination seen at Pointe du Hoc with the Rangers. However, the chaotic conditions on the beach that morning and a lack of functional radios delayed effective communication until the afternoon. Without clear targets, the destroyer captains had to choose targets or opportunity. Despite these challenges, the arrival of the destroyers had an immediate, though brief, positive impact. Many German gunners stopped firing temporarily, reluctant to reveal their positions, while others redirected their fire toward the destroyers, giving the soldiers on the beach a short respite. Off the center of Omaha Beach, near the village of Le Moulin, Commander Robert Beer, captain of USS Carmack, was actively searching for enemy gun positions from his ship. Frustrated by the Germans' use of smokeless powder, which left no visible signs of gunfire, Beer found the process slow and unreliable. Observing the situation through binoculars, he noticed a few Allied tanks struggling to advance through a draw near Viviers-sur-Mer, pinned down by heavy gunfire from unknown sources above. When Beer saw the tanks firing at a specific spot on the bluffs, he ordered his ship to target the same area. Carmack unleashed rapid salvos from her 5-inch guns toward the suspected positions. Moments later, noticing the tanks shifting their fire to a new location, Beer directed his gunnery officer to adjust their targeting accordingly. Beer later reported that it was apparent the tanks were marking targets for the naval vessels to engage, creating a coordinated effort to suppress enemy positions through a lethal exchange of fire. Not far from Carmack, fellow Desron 18 destroyer USS McCook initiated an attack on 2 heavily fortified German gun positions embedded in the cliff face. For over 15 minutes, McCook punished the German battery with such an intense bombardment that it eventually caused the cliff itself to collapse, dislodging one gun into the air and sending the other tumbling down into the rocks below. A couple of miles farther east, another Desron 18 ship, USS Doyle, was navigating through the dense traffic of landing crafts off the Fox Green sector of Omaha Beach. Positioned just 800 yards from the shoreline, the destroyer's crew observed a group of soldiers entrenched behind a sand hummock on the beach, with subsequent waves of boats maneuvering nearby. Without direct communication with shore-based fire control parties, Doyle's crew began searching for enemy gun positions against the challenging backdrop of smoke and dust. With such limited visibility making it difficult to identify targets, Doyle started firing at any positions they thought enemy guns might be, even without visual confirmation. Eventually, though, a machine gun nest was spotted on a steep hill west of Fox Red Beach, leading Doyle to respond with 2 thundering salvos that effectively eliminated the threat. The ship then targeted and destroyed a casemate, with additional fire at the hill's crest. Meanwhile, having completed her tasks off Pointe du Hoc, USS Thompson arrived to support operations off Fox Green Beach, directing her guns against a cluster of trees suspected of concealing a field battery. Whether or not it was actually an enemy position, the area was subjected to intense bombardment, with several other ships soon joining the fray. In the midst of the frenzied attack, a sailor aboard a landing craft was scanning the vegetation along the bluff when he spotted a slight movement in the bushes. Moments later, a shell burst on the beach. Keeping his gaze locked on that spot, he soon noticed another subtle rustle, followed by a second explosion. He quickly alerted the captain, who observed the same pattern. After recording the coordinates, the captain used the short-range TBS radio to contact a nearby destroyer, which raced toward the shore as fast as it could, before angling its port side toward the beach and unleashing a barrage of 8 5-inch shells directly at the German gun position. By using small 5-inch shells, the destroyers of Desron 18 were able to hit their targets with much greater accuracy than the aerial bombs dropped from high altitudes and the 8, 12, and 14-inch shells fired by battleships and cruisers from 10 to 15 miles offshore earlier that day. While the larger caliber shells had shaken the ground, they had largely left German gun positions intact. Now, the destroyers were systematically neutralizing enemy positions with great precision, even splitting a German artillery piece open after hitting it directly on the muzzle. From an artillery bunker behind Omaha Beach, a German regimental commander reported over the phone to headquarters about the devastation caused by naval gunfire and the dire shortage of ammunition. However, before he could get an answer, the line had already gone silent. For over an hour, from just before 9 a.m. until after 10 a.m., the destroyers bombarded the shore without pause, denying the German shore batteries a chance to respond. However, this sustained assault quickly depleted the destroyer's ammunition. Prior to beginning the operation, the ships of Desron 18 had been told to conserve around 40% of their ammunition for the trip back to England to ensure they remained prepared for emergencies. In the heat of the moment, the captains had chosen to ignore this rule. Having spent around 30% of their 1,500 to 2,000 rounds of 5-inch shells during the initial bombardment before the first troops landed, the destroyers had now fired nearly all their remaining ammunition, with USS Emmons firing 767 rounds, USS McCook 975, and USS Carmack unleashing a staggering 1,127 rounds between 8:50 and 10:15 a.m. Meanwhile, USS Butler's crew had to cool the ship's gun mount with fire hoses because the barrels were running red hot. To evade German fire, the destroyer captains frequently changed their engine speeds, alternating between moving forward and reversing, which caused confusion among the German gunners. Despite these evasive maneuvers, there were some close calls. USS Emmons narrowly escaped unscathed after a near miss from a German battery near Fox Red Beach. USS Baldwin was not so lucky, finding itself struck twice in quick succession, the first shell damaging a whaleboat on the starboard side, and the second creating an 8 by 12-inch hole in the main deck. However, she was quick to retaliate, managing to deliver precise counter-battery fire that eventually silenced her attackers. During this critical 90-minute engagement along Omaha Beach, no other destroyers sustained damage. As the morning drew to a close, the precision of the destroyer's gunfire significantly increased once the ships managed to establish communication with the fire control teams on the ground. At 11:24 a.m., Army spotters coordinated with the USS Frankfurt to target a group of German troops positioned behind the beach and out of the destroyer's direct line of sight. After delivering 2 salvos, the spotters observed the German troops dispersing and promptly called for a ceasefire. However, with working radios scarce and inter-service communication often complicated, mistakes were still made, sometimes with disastrous consequences. In one such incident, USS Harding began blasting a church in Vevey-sur-Mer, oblivious to the fact that the town had already been secured by US soldiers. The friendly fire ended up causing several fatalities and injuries that could have been avoided. Nonetheless, the overall impact of the close-in naval gunfire was pivotal. By mid-morning, for the first time since landing, the soldiers who had been pinned down behind a slight rise of sand at the tide line were able to raise their heads and scout paths off the beach, with some German defenders starting to surrender before noon. Though the courage and resolve shown by the infantry that day could not be understated, had it not been for the support provided by Desron 18 and their fellow destroyers, things could have panned out very differently. In his post-war reflections, General Omar Bradley, commander of the U.S. ground forces on D-Day, acknowledged the Navy's vital role, admitting, quote, "The Navy saved our hides." A big thank you to World of Warships for sponsoring our video. Don't miss out. Participate in the D-Day anniversary event and grab your exclusive starter pack with code DDAY80th. Click the link in the description and join us in big adventures.